Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and this evening we have one of our favorite guests. We have Dr. Angela Celeste May. She is our behavioral expert with a background in clinical, organizational, and forensic psychology. She is the co-founder and president of A.M. May and Associates Incorporated. She is the founder and president of Celeste Productions Incorporated. She created a column for Michigan Women's Forum magazine called Phenomenal Michigan Women, highlighting accomplished Black women in our state. She's an author of several articles and editor of books in different genres. She is the past president of the Michigan Psychological Association Foundation Board. She's the co-founder and past president of the Metro Detroit Association of Black Psychologists. If that's not enough. She's also the first Black chair elect of the Michigan Health Council in its 83-year history. Making history, y'all, and she has received several awards, including the 2023 President's Distinction Award for contributions to the field from the Michigan Psychological Association Foundation. She's also an author and musician, and she's here tonight to talk about the cost of hate towards Black people. Good evening, Dr. Angie. Thank you for being with us.
Good evening, Kim. How are you doing this evening?
I am great now that you're here. I'm so excited to get started.
I am too.
All right, so Ooh, it's 2026. And
Yeah.
I don't know about your social media feed, but mine is full of angry, hateful, violent people hurling expletives and N words and you don't belong here and this and that. And calling the police and telling people they got to move and just all these things. I think back to 2008 when President Obama was elected, and I kept hearing people say, America's in a good place. Racism is over. There's no racism. We all are together. I know you're like you.
I don't, I'm not gonna bust out laughing. We were in a post racial. Remember that? We were in a post
Yeah,
racial society.
Heidi. And I remember thinking, are we? The Great Migration had flipped. Many people had moved back towards the South, and
Hmm.
everybody was like, Kim, you should come to the South. And I was like, I don't know. I'm not convinced. Yet, here we are, 2026, with so many things happening. We have the Rick Chow incident where Cyrus Carmack Belton was shot in the back over 4 bottles of water. Maybe, maybe not. I've seen the video. He doesn't have any waters in his pocket. He put them back.
Hmm.
You have Carmelo Anthony, who was being bullied by Austin Metcalf. I've seen some video. He's a bad dude. Not Carmelo, Austin. He's
Hmm.
mean. And there were some cheerleaders who even came out and said that he was bullying them. I'm not saying he deserved to die. It's an unfortunate situation that played out the way that it did. And historically, we've seen so many of these types of cases. But yet, we've had the rise of quote unquote the Karen. Black people at a pool enjoying themselves. And somebody walks up, you got to leave. You don't belong here. And then I listen to people in offices across corporate, academia, whatever, nonprofit, and they're all saying sort of similar things, that it seems like a switch has flipped and people are just saying whatever they want. Dr. Angie, what's happening in our society?
You don't ask small questions.
I do not. I'm
You ask the big questions,
sorry.
the big ones. There's like, well, a couple of things, and I'm certainly not the first person, certainly not the first person to say this, but America, our country, more specifically the United States of America, we have long positioned ourselves, as we know, as the quote unquote leader of the world,
Yes.
of the modern world, leader of the Western world, I should say.
Yes.
And so over many years, we as a country in the West have set the tone
Hmm.
for the way things are done together with our allies, et cetera, and all that good stuff. There have been some positive things we've definitely done. Um, we have historically taken our wealth. How did we become wealthy?
Mm.
I believe our ancestors are the reason that this is such a wealthy country.
Yes.
And I'm not even going to say I digress because that's right in the center of the conversation. It is no digression.
Hmm.
Um, but the good things that we've done that I would say um, uh, correctly helps contribute to the idea that we are, have been the leader, is that we have taken our wealth and fed hungry countries. We have taken our wealth and tried to do positive things, not just for people in our own society, in our own backyard, but to try to shore up and help others around the world. And that will always bless, that's always a good thing and a positive thing, and contributes to what I think is good leadership.
Hmm.
We have also, of course, since there are no perfect people and no perfect countries, we have also taken our wealth and power and done some horrible things, as we know,
Hmm.
around the world and to our people as well.
Yes.
So, having said that, because of our position in the world and in the Western world, um, our leadership, our seat of power in Washington D.C., where our presidency is housed,
Yes.
tends to one of the ways of wielding that power is that whatever tone, attitudes, and policies that the whoever the sitting president is in the United States has a huge impact, as we know, not economically, politically, all that stuff.
Hmm.
Well, it also, that person also has a huge impact, of course, on culture, societal thinking, can impact societal norms, what's considered normal, what is considered acceptable, all of that. Um, so while the individual people, the citizens of our country and elsewhere, certainly have their own minds,
Hmm.
America was built on a very individualism kind of attitude where people what has been written into our Constitution is that people do have the freedoms and the right to make up their own mind, make their own decisions, live their lives as they choose with the freedoms that we have. Um, while that is the case, still there is some influence from whoever occupies that presidency.
Hmm.
And so we know that there has always been, we're built on racism, our
Yes.
country is built
Hmm.
on racism, built on, let's call it what it is, human trafficking.
Hmm. Hmm.
Slavery is an institution that means a lot of things, including sanctioned rape, human trafficking, murder, all kidney, you name it.
Right. That's true. Yes.
Yeah, and some things we just can't even name because we just can't even think up some of the stuff.
Right.
Um, so both of those things, as they say these days, two things can be true at once.
Yes.
We've led in some positive ways and we've done some awful things. So our history, which is still present, it's not a long time ago.
Hmm.
Um, the residue and the continuation of the negative parts and the racism, while have gotten better, and they've gotten better because citizens have fought to make it better.
Right.
While that it's those things are better, we still have we've never, as we've talked about before, as a country on the federal level, we've never fully given an apology, fully had a serious discussion about. There have been individuals who discussed it, but real discussion, meaning real, just meaning on a policy level for reparations.
Hmm.
All of those things that deal with handling and addressing our racist history and present. So,
Right.
because all of that is still there, and because those citizens remain, even though some are better, we still have the hatred. When you have someone at the top who gives you permission, and we have someone, I don't even want to say the top, what shall we say? We have someone residing in the
In the
seat of
House of
power,
Yes.
yes, in our
Yes.
country, who
Yes.
sets a tone for
Hmm.
our country, oh, generally speaking, as well as for elsewhere. And so that permission structure is in place. To invent, no. To unleash, yes. To give
Mhm.
permission to unleash these racist, bigoted, hateful um, actions that are based on hateful, racist, bigoted mindsets and mentality. So that's one thing that's going on. Is there's a shift, a cultural shift in our country that is giving people the impression that they can go ahead and spew some of this awfulness that you were describing, because it's been the example has been set in the seat of power.
Mhm.
He does it, so people feel like, and he's giving the message that it's okay to do that. So
Mhm.
that's one big part of it, and another big part of it is there's a snowball effect. The more you see something or the more you hear something, good or bad, it just feeds that behavior.
Mhm.
Um, Going back to the Obama administration, like you were mentioning, yes, we kind of chuckle, about the post-racial ideas that people had, that, oh, now that we have a black president, oh goody, it's all done, no more racism. Even
Right.
many of us knew that wasn't true.
Mhm.
But having someone black of integrity, smart, and openly loving
Mhm.
and respectful to all people, regardless of their background and regardless of whether he agreed with them or not. That set a tone when he was there. And we saw that reflected, by the same token, we saw that reflected in the way citizens behaved. Um, Regardless of their background. Was everyone just perfect to each other? Of course not. But
Mhm.
generally speaking, it set a tone and gave permission and strength to the idea that we should treat each other with respect and integrity, because that's what the person at the top of our leading our country was doing. And so we have a different approach with the person at the top of our country at this time. And so yeah, so the behavior is modeled. People copy it. Um, and it feels like it gives a feeling to some people like it justifies, oh, if he said it, if a leader, and this is part of leadership, if the leader does it or says it, it must be okay.
Yeah.
And there are people who are looking for permission for that anyway. So that's a big part of what's going on. And then one other thing I'll say too is a lot of these people in these feeds that are coming through on social media and stuff, um, they, not to be demeaning, or I don't want to like put anyone down, but there are a lot of these folks who don't who are already angry. and
Mhm.
and a lot of these folks, they think they're mad at black folks, or they think that they're really angry about things in their lives and have low self-esteem and all that stuff. So this is like an opportunity, basically, to spew
Yes.
that and help them make themselves try to feel a little bit more superior, which never
Ab-
works, of course, but
Not at all. And
never.
typically, whenever someone does that, they're very insecure.
Absolutely.
And once you study it and learn it and understand that that's what it is, it doesn't necessarily make it easier to deal with. It just gives you different tools. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it is important to understand that a tone has been set. We
Yes.
were, I do believe, at a point where folks were getting past some things. I'm not saying that hatred wasn't there, but I
Mm-hmm.
do think we were able to um, at least be in spaces and people would leave you alone.
Mm-hmm.
But now, when we think economically, and I'm so glad that you brought up the point about people being angry, because one of the things that we've heard continuously on the campaign trail, well, we want our manufacturing jobs back, and we want our coal mine jobs back, and we want this and we want that. And I remember when President Obama, I believe it was his first term, and he talked about how we are now in a global economy, meaning
Mm-hmm.
that what happens in Detroit impacts what happens in Shanghai, China,
That's right.
or what happens in India, or what happens in a country in Africa or Australia, or what happens in one of the countries in the European Union. And I think a lot of times that people really don't understand that. And so
Mm-hmm.
now I find it interesting because we have this big conversation in our country about affirmative action. Well, you don't need affirmative action. Black people have everything, right? So, you can just go and get a job and you have to be qualified. And it's always comical to me whenever people say that and they'll say, "Well, how did you get this job?" "Oh, it must be affirmative action." No, I have 2 degrees. How many degrees do you have, sir? How much debt do you have? How many classes did you take? How many books and
Exactly.
experts did you sit with? And I'm not even talking about myself personally. I do have 2 degrees. However, I digress. I digress. I say that whenever people say things like that, I'm like, a lot of times Black folk in America, when you see them in a position, they got 3 and 4 degrees. They
Hmm.
done did all these different things that nobody even thought of to do to be qualified, where the basic qualification is a bachelor's degree. And so when we look at college and university, the Asian community was pitted against the Black community, saying, "Oh, the Black people are taking the Asian spots."
And
Ah,
that's all. That's historic as well, of course.
yes,
Trying to
absolutely.
pit the Asian. Hmm.
Yes. Or in the Native Americans and Latino Hispanic community. And
Yes.
what happened? Asian acceptance rates plummeted even further. I
Hmm.
said, "Oh, they don't want you either. They just told you that we were." Our rates stayed the same. And so I just have to say, God is showing up and showing out. He is showing us
That's right.
where the evil is in people's hearts. And I'm not saying that all Asian people are racist or anything, not saying that at all. This is a movement that was pushed.
Hmm.
They've done the same thing with Latino Hispanics. And I found it funny. These were the same people that were being rounded up in Home Depot,
Yes.
Walmart, Parks, and other places.
Hmm.
But you still had a percentage of the Latino Hispanic community
Hmm.
who kept supporting the same administration that was
Hmm.
pushing this. Now you have a cut in safety net,
Hmm.
the Affordable Care Act.
Yes.
They call it Obamacare. It's people out here getting welfare, and we don't even know if they have kids. Excuse me. When
Hmm.
I heard, and I forget which administrator in this current administration that said that, and I thought, have you ever looked at an application? They ask you for everything. They want to know where your kids are.
Hmm.
Anybody that has children in school, now all children are asked if you qualify for reduced lunch, meaning, are you on any type of assistance?
Hmm.
And it's funny to listen to people say, this is the way it works, but that's not the way that it works. And then you tell people, well, all these lazy people are just sitting around getting Obamacare, but it's really called the Affordable Care Act. And so now rural counties are struggling and rural communities are struggling because the hospitals are closing.
Hmm.
You have people who don't even have a doctor because doctors don't want to go to areas because they're not sure if they're going to get sued because a woman is pregnant and they can't help her.
Hmm.
And I said, wow, this is the cost of hatred towards Black people. You hate
Absolutely.
us so much that you are shooting yourself in the foot.
Exactly. That's
Is there a
exactly.
is there a psychology to that, Dr. Angie?
Well, there's a few aspects that could address that. How much time do we have? No, I'm just joking. Well, I'll tell you this. It's really interesting when you were starting with some of these most recent examples
Mm-hmm.
of the hatred. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many to choose from,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately and tragically. The hatred towards Black people when you're talking about Carmelo Anthony and
Mm-hmm.
some of these other cases. Um, this process that happens when someone is like in an emergency situation or being attacked or whatever the case. the with Carmela Anthony being bullied. We don't know what all that was happening under that tent, but as
Mm-hmm.
the story comes out and everything, like you were saying, he was being bullied badly, and then he was responding and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think about the brain, well, how the brain and the body deals with threat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some of those brain terms that maybe folks might have learned in biology class or may not have. There's the alarm system, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the amygdala in the brain. So the
Mm-hmm.
amygdala in the brain, that's we've talked about the nervous system, right, and the fight or flight and everything. So the amygdala, that is the brain's alarm system that goes off that tells you there's a threat going on here. So, in the case of a person who is being, either being threatened or feeling threatened, that amygdala sends off like physical and emotional reactions to get ready to survive, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if we like flip that over, flip on the other side of the card, the coin or whatever, and we take someone who, in factual reality, is not being threatened, but their brain has been conditioned in
Mm-hmm.
a bigoted manner so
Yeah.
much that the presence of brown skin
Mm-hmm.
feels like it's an actual threat.
Yes.
The presence of a black person breathing feels like that they are threatening my existence. Interestingly enough, and I would like to, and to be honest, I haven't really, this is a very interesting question that you ask about that part of it. I was thinking about that a little bit. I haven't really looked at like recent studies on this. There's been many studies on the impact of racism and discrimination, how it impacts us, etc. But how the alarm bells go off in a similar way for someone who in their mind is convinced that they are being threatened. So that same amygdala, if we've seen some of these Karens, if you look at the body language,
Yes.
sometimes they come off like, as we know, superior and what are you doing, but also you can tell sometimes the breathing changes.
Mm-hmm.
well well, they're like, well, why are you here, kind of thing, for
Mm-hmm.
Karens and for Kens. So you so you have the alarm, the amygdala. And then the amygdala gives us, then the next thing that happens in the brain is the hypothalamus. So
Right.
that's the switchboard, right? So that the hypothalamus receives those alarm signals from the amygdala and starts flooding the body with the stress hormone, cortisol and adrenaline and all of that stuff, that fight or
Yes.
flight and everything.
Yes.
Um, and then, ultimately, if you really feel that you are being threatened, then your system is like the prefrontal cortex, where reasoning and problem solving and all that rational thing is located. It just kind of, it gets overridden for a moment. It just gets, the
Right.
switchboard just overrides it, so that your body just takes over automatically to handle what's, and you're not thinking about your next move. Your body is just moving.
Mm-hmm.
So again, flipping that over for someone who factually is not being threatened, but believes that they are, believes that you are, your presence and your existence as a black or brown person in my space is, and you're not serving me. This is just something that's just wrong, and my alarm bells are going off, and all of this kind of stuff. A lot of those reactions mirror somebody who actually, thinks that they have a knife on them, but what they really have on them are the eyeballs of a black person. They're just looking at you. They're just looking at you. That's all. That's
That's a whole horror movie. You gave me
that's
all
like,
kinds of ideas. But that
you got your you got ideas.
idea,
Yes,
but that's interesting that mentally you can have that same response as if someone has pulled a knife or a gun to you, but someone just happens to be in your space.
absolutely. And what's even more interesting is if we take someone, for example, who has trauma, in their background, let's say, and taking the, taking the not taking the race out of it, but the race differential out of it. So let's say we have two people from the Netherlands. They're both from the
Mhm.
Netherlands. They have similar race. They both have blonde hair, and they're both same skin color, ethnic, whatever it may be. But one of them has had trauma in their background, and the trauma was from a man or a very tall man. So let's say a very tall man steps on the elevator with the shorter man or woman.
Mm-hmm.
They could have a similar kind. It's a trauma response. Like, I don't know,
Right.
am I safe kind of thing. We talk about the term, the weaponization of black
Yes.
skin, of
Yes.
being black as the threat.
Yes.
That's part of the sickness, and ridiculously, that's not only in our country, although our country has been definitely a purveyor of that nonsense. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, the actual reaction, it's almost like a loop. So your body is telling you that, this, and your mind is telling you this is not right, and then your body's reacting like it's like, this is not right. Now, this is not the case for all people, as we know. There are
Mm-hmm.
some
Mm-hmm.
people, like my husband says, he just thinks it's hilarious how certain Karens who claim that they are you're threatening me, but he's walking away and she's gonna follow him all the way up into. I thought you were threatened. Shouldn't you go that way? Like,
Right. You've called the police, and the people are standing there like, we'll wait here for the police. You need to back up away from me. And they just keep coming closer and closer. And it's almost as if they want you to do something
to
so it
justify.
justify their
Exactly.
behavior.
Yes, I need you to react this way. You're not reacting this way. So I'm going to force the issue and force the issue because I need you to react this way. So, of
Right.
course, the question becomes, why do you need anything from me? Why do you need me to react a certain way?
Mm-hmm.
Again, like we had talked about in the past, if my entire identity is built on some nonsense lie that's not factually correct or true, and in
Mm-hmm.
these cases, what is the lie? That I am superior to another human being, no matter what the reason. Skin.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm superior. No, you're not. And so
Right.
the fact that you have no proof of it when you're in the face of that other human being
Mm-hmm.
drives people just utterly out of their mind. So it reminds me of, speaking psychologically, of course, again, it reminds me of someone with a personality disorder.
Yes.
So, no whatever your personalities are built in childhood, of course, as for all of us,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're born with certain traits. There's trait theory, all of that. Personalities are built on that, a combination of your lived experiences in your home, your environment, and your natural makeup, your genetic makeup, how you naturally are. Um, but according to the ways in which diagnose personality disorder, you're looking at someone who developed personality trait, a personality during childhood in response to things in the environment that were harmful, detrimental, or were perceived to be. So, if you, as an example, if you were raised by people who were very like black or white, either or, I totally love you, and then if you make one little mistake, I totally reject you. Like,
Right.
people who aren't themselves the most healthy
Mm-hmm.
psychologically,
Mm-hmm.
that can contribute to, now that it's not just, of course, prefacing this by saying it's not just this simple or cut and dry, but as a simplified example, that person could develop borderline personality disorder, where it's either or, I love you or I absolutely hate you.
Mm-hmm.
Or a narcissistic personality disorder. Everyone talks about it. They think everyone's a
Mm-hmm.
narcissist. It's tossed around a lot. A lot of people who are referred to as narcissists may have certain traits of narcissism, etc. They may not have a full blown narcissistic personality disorder, although there are some in the public realm who we're pretty sure probably
That they
does. Although we don't
yeah.
diagnose from afar, but
Right.
for someone who has a narcissistic personality disorder, when they were growing up, during their personality development, um, they may have uh, they may have been emotionally neglected, felt that they didn't have a voice, that they had to compete for their parents, their fathers, attention, or whatever the case. So then for all of these, it's like a way of overcompensating. I'm
Mm-hmm.
overcompensating for what I believe I didn't get or may not have gotten. There's no doubt there's been real abuse and neglect in the lives of many people who develop personality disorders. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't develop them out of the blue sky. Things happened for sure, and this becomes the way that they cope, and they
Right.
carry that into adulthood. It can be very difficult for the people around them and themselves. But this the discussion reminds me of someone with someone who has these racist ideas and prejudiced ideas entrenched in their brain, where you just have to be where I need you to be, which is a very unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned the whole personality disorder conversation because it's an example of a very unhealthy way of
Mm-hmm.
being and interacting with people. So these
Absolutely.
Karens and Kens, as they're referred to, who
Right.
absolutely insist, I need you to, behave in whatever ways I've decided that they're total strangers. How have you decided? What? How? What really? What is it? Why? 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 Because I don't know, some in your audience may have heard the term enmeshment. Some may have or may not have. It's another term used in the field of psychology and psychiatry, etc. And it really has to do with and these are different theories and stuff and can be played out in
Mhm.
different ways, but it's this idea of people who are in relationships, oftentimes family members, for example, who do not have healthy boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
where not a full understanding of where I end and you begin. there
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So there are areas in which we are together and we share certain things, but you can disagree, and even your disagreement might upset me. I might really want you to see my point, and all that can be the case.
Mm-hmm.
But when you take it too far to the point where you just really cannot live your life, you just can't take another step, uh, and you're so angry that you just can't function properly
Mm-hmm.
until the other person behaves in whatever way that you want them to behave. This is beyond your standard frustrations.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, it suggests it's giving boundary issues. So our racist and any kind of racism,
Mm-hmm.
between any folks, whether we're not talking about black folks,
Mm-hmm.
when we see that kind of behavior happening, again, it's really giving an unhealthy uh, lack of understanding of where each of us ends at our boundaries.
I'm so happy you brought that up because I reminded someone on one of the feeds. It was one of the negative Asian influencer videos where they were railing against the Black community. I said,
Hmm.
I want y'all to remember we stuck up for you all when they were calling it Kung Flu. Remember COVID? And our same
Certainly
president
were.
and
Certainly did.
president was like, it came from a lab in Wuhan, China. No proof that it ever did.
That's right.
And he kept calling it Kung Flu. And I was like, what is happening? But then you had different nationalities of Asian people who weren't even Chinese. And I'm not advocating or saying that it was right for anybody to be harassed, abused, tortured, anything like that. But these weren't even um, Chinese people. These were the spectrum, Vietnamese, Thai,
Hmm.
all different types of people. And people were lashing out at them saying Kung Flu. But I
Hmm.
want to remind you of something, Dr. Angie, because I think it's important. When I was in school, and please don't do the math because you might hurt your head. When we were in school, we saw all those videos. We saw Ruby Bridges walking to school, integrating the schools, and we saw all those angry people outside screaming. The Black people need their own communities. They need to be separate. White and Black can't exist together. Remember all of those old videos that we used to watch.
Hmm.
And I remember thinking when everybody was saying that we're in a post racial society, what happened to all of that?
Hmm.
And so now, today, we're seeing the fruits of its labor.
Absolutely. I had the same thought of a wonderful mentor of mine who has since passed on a few years ago. The great Dr. Josephine Johnson, Dr. Joe. She is,
Yay.
yeah, she is fantastic. And she did a regular, I think it was an annual retreat with some of, I'm going to say the name wrong. I think it was Mercy High School here in the
Mm-hmm.
Detroit suburbs.
Mm-hmm.
And she couldn't do it one day, and she asked me if oh, could you do it for me? So she gave me her materials and stuff, and She did a retreat with them in which they did talk about racist issues, etc. So,
Mhm.
for those who may not know, Mercy High School, a private kind of on the elite side, of high school,
Mhm.
excellent curriculum, all girls,
Mhm.
um, predominantly white, and some like Asian American, some from India, and then a percentage of black students as well.
Mhm.
So one of the exercises that she gave me to do, that I adapted and did with them, that she would do, it would be like a different set of girl, different class, each time she'd do it. So when I
Mhm.
did it with them, it was one of those games, where it demonstrates the things we have in common and the things that are different, how we differ in our experiences.
Mhm.
And so, of course, a lot of these girls, they're classmates. They got along great. They felt that, but we're friends, and not to say they weren't, but
Mhm.
it was a way of teaching and educating both sides about some things that may be different. Even if, and again, this is a highfalutin high school.
Right.
um,
In high
uh,
school, yeah.
Highfalutin high school. I went to a highfalutin high school, but mine was the Academy of the Sacred Heart in Bluefield Hills. It was another highfalutin high school. Did that mean that every student was wealthy? No, but there were definitely black elite, black wealthy, all the rest. So it wasn't necessarily about socioeconomic lines, although that could be part of it. And so
Mhm.
I did the game with them, start with something they have in common. They're both the students at Mercy High School. That yay, okay, whatever. So as you start asking questions,
Mhm.
have you ever had someone call you out of your name, a racial slur? Have you? And and it escalated. It would be certain things, and then each question would get a little more, closer to some painful things that happened to spark conversation, was the point, and realization in an experiential way. So as the questions were asked, take a step back, if take a step forward if you have ever, and or sit down if you have ever, and slowly but surely they could see and feel by doing this exercise the looks on these girls' faces, like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Oh my gosh. And it sparked a
Mhm.
very important conversation. And I must say, a lot of tears as
I
well.
bet. I bet.
Absolutely. Um, so when you were saying, what happened with this generation of folks that were screaming at the Ruby Bridges and others as well, that was one of those experiences that was eye opening for them. And then also, when way past grown, as we would say, when I first saw some of these pages in history books and photos of the lynchings and the happy white folks enjoying their food, their picnic after church with their little ones over the burning body of a black person. I remember asking the same question, not of them, but it just
Mhm.
uh, in my own head and discussions with people in my life, where are well, I didn't ask the question. My point was, I was saying they didn't all disappear. That's a whole like community.
Mhm.
They didn't
Mhm.
all, and you're absolutely right to acknowledge that here you go, here you go. Um, it it can feel like an uphill battle. It can feel like a never ending fight.
Mhm.
Um, but one of the things that even in this day and age of this particular regime, as I like to call it, that we have in the United States right now, that gives a permission structure for racism and bigotry and all kinds of non-love towards women, and you name it, you name it. I still point to, as much as they're trying to roll things back, I still point to the ways in which we continue to go forward, and
Yes.
the battles and wars that were won and continue to be won. One of the things that you talked about, that we've talked about together, of course, is for every, what is it, for every action there's an equal and powerful, reaction, right? So when this person who is in the Oval Office in Washington D.C., when he uh, let's see, I'm not going to say stole, when he
Yeah.
rankled his way up in there each time.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, what the things that I loved seeing were white folks going out of their way because to do the opposite, to show kindness,
Yeah.
to be extra. Like, they were like loving people anyway, but like extra, because the unspoken and sometimes spoken and unspoken
Mm-hmm.
message was, we are not all in agreement with that ridiculousness. Please don't think that's all of us. Please don't think I'm not. That was very heartening for me to see. I saw a lot of that, and I saw it in real life.
Mm-hmm.
Another
Same.
thing that we've taught, which I love that. Like we say, God, if you are a believer, we are believers. God is in control. God knows what He's doing, and sometimes these awful situations are wake up calls for people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true. Like the Obamas say, for our democracy. So,
Mm-hmm.
for our generation, and maybe one behind us, but definitely our generation. Um, it can be easy to take our democracy for granted because we've seen stuff in the history books.
Mm-hmm.
We came just behind a lot of these wins for women and for black folks and for Latin folks, etc. So it can be easy to forget that a
Yeah.
democracy is an action word, just like President Obama
Absolutely.
says, just like Michelle Obama says, and other of our leaders
Yeah.
that we have had. So it's a wake up call for us too, that we have to stay vigilant. Um, we can't have these conversations without talking about the numbers of voters who stay home, the
Mm-hmm.
numbers of, and we have to, lovingly put our arms around our own as well. There are a lot of black folks who vote, and there's black women always will come out and vote. A lot of
92.
our elders vote because they
Yeah.
remember, they understand.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but there are a lot of folks who've stayed home, black folks who've stayed home. All of this, you can't unravel one from the other, because the democracy, and we're not talking about just democracy, of course, but when you're talking about the hatred and the bigotry and all of that, it is, it's interwoven into our democratic system. It wasn't supposed to be based on what was written on paper in terms of our Constitution,
Right.
but because the Constitution did not include the enslaved persons, this is
Mm-hmm.
what you get. This is what you get.
Exactly.
This is what you get. And to
Exactly.
your point, um, it does harm you can't, and this has never always been the case. You can never harm one group and not harm everyone and not harm yourself.
That's right.
And just as the way you started this discussion, how it hurts white folks, how it hurts everyone. You will miss out on that black genius because we've invented just everything.
Mm-hmm.
Not everything, but we've invented
But a
so
lot.
much,
A lot.
so
Yeah.
much. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're going to miss out on that cure. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
how many trillions of dollars you think you have. You can't make science go faster. And you might miss out on that brilliant black person, that brilliant Latin Mexican woman who will find the cure to what your baby has, who's in an incubator.
So let
And
me
you
get
can't throw billions at the incubator and help your child.
you can't. So let
You
me give you
cannot.
a scientific fact.
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead. Yes.
No, 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 no. You're fine. You're fine.
Mm-hmm.
So when we had COVID,
Mm-hmm.
remember, this was before the shots. They were like, we don't have anything. Cuba, the country that our current
Yes.
president is trying to bomb and get rid of,
Yes.
created the nasal
Yes. That's
treatment.
right.
Now, these are people, these are black and brown people
Mm-hmm.
who aren't supposed to be educated, who are supposed to be poor and criminals and all this. And
Mm-hmm.
they invented that, which
Absolutely.
helped the entire world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is the kind of stuff that
Mm-hmm.
everyone will, like you said, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Everyone will miss out on,
Mm-hmm.
um, because of accepting this
Yeah.
racist, concepts, and the big, and it really is extremely ignorant. And a lot of people think ignorant is a put down. Ignorant means you don't know and you're
Right.
uneducated about something. That's not calling somebody stupid or a put down in
Mm-hmm.
that manner.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very ignorant and very uninformed, and people are harming themselves. And another thing I have to mention too, I want to go back to when you were talking about the Ruby Bridges
Yes, yes. Hmm.
the others who've integrated, etc. God bless those brave little
Absolutely.
kids. Absolutely. Um, when you were saying, oh yeah, again, the ignorance, right? The ignorance. So they're
Hmm.
yelling and screaming. We can't. They should have their own society.
We did. You burned
We
it.
we have this is a little bitty old island, the United States, out in the middle of the ocean. It's
That
not
can
like
fit the
Germany
size
that
of
can just walk
Africa.
across the street and you're in another country, right? Or Italy and and France. So we have always been intermixed.
Yes,
That's nonsense. We've
yes.
always been intermixed. Yes, there have been pockets of segregate communities as much as they could try to segregate, but
But they
by and
burned them
large,
down. They burned them down. Every
burned them
time we
down.
had it from Tulsa to Rosewood to so many others.
Absolutely. Burned
They
them down or built a freeway through it, like here in Detroit with
a black
Black
bottom.
Bottom. Exactly.
Yes.
But also the point I'm making about that is you don't mind us being together
Hmm.
as long as we're working for you.
Oh, yes.
That's
Absolutely.
okay. I
Yes.
mean, don't you're not allowed to sit at the table
Right.
or I'm not going to drink out of that cup that you touched or anything. But
Mhm.
like we said before, who raised all these white generations? What? Who? Who
Okay.
is feeding these babies? So we've all so that in and of itself is
We've
a
done
loss.
that. Yes. On the plantation, we were
All of
breastfeeding
that,
their babies, not
all up in there.
ours. Let me
Thank
give you
you.
another fun fact because I love history. So, when Africans were enslaved and brought here, of course, the Europeans had all these diseases from smallpox to everything else.
That's right. Those blankets that were full of smallpox and stuff.
And a African slave named Onesimus. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. I think it's Onesimus, something like that.
hmm
He shared a technique from Africa where you prick someone's skin with sickness and they build up an immunity. It's described a little bit differently, but it's the first immunization practice. And so, for everyone who says, oh, all of this came from Europe, no, it
No,
came from Africa.
absolutely.
When you look at exploration, Africans were already here. Christopher Columbus was drunk and muddled
Didn't
his
know
way.
where he was.
He didn't know where he
Absolutely.
was. He didn't know where
Absolutely.
he was. And, this isn't trying to rewrite history. The fact is, when you start to study and read and really open yourself up,
To
there,
facts.
yes,
Yes.
there
Mhm.
is a community in Mexico. Um, and I don't think the people are still that I don't they might have descendants. I don't know what they're called now. But there was a group of people called the Olmecs, Olmecs.
Mhm.
They were trading with the Africans and they talked about how Africans came across the sea. So, we listen to people and I listen to people who will say, well, the Native American people need to leave. Where are you sending them? This is their country.
Again, it's ignorant. It's
It is.
ignorant
It
and
is. It is.
closed-minded, and it's just putting one's lack of knowledge just on display.
Right.
Absolutely on display. And again, there's a purpose to all of that. Going back again, that
Yes.
psychological need to keep spinning these lies and to try to prop up a very fragile ego and sense of low self-esteem. Because as we've said before, when you are confident in what you have, what Susie has across the street does not threaten you. You might be interested in it, like, oh, that's interesting. You might be
Right.
inspired by it. And, we're human. Maybe a little
Mhm.
jealousy might come, whatever. But if you are working on yourself and you're trying to grow and all that, and you may recognize that you feel a little threatened or whatever, but then you get to work on your stuff. Let
Absolutely.
me see if I can strengthen my thing or learn more about how can I apply that to me, or here's some self exploration. How about why am I threatened? Why do I feel that way? That's what healthy people do.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's the healthy
That's
people.
fact. That
What
is fact.
unhealthy, psychologically, emotionally, and mentally, spiritually unhealthy people do. What the unhealthy is, I'm going to stand right here, like we've talked about in my ignorance. A healthy person will say, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Tell me more." And there are lots of white folks who do that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the ones who are, and this is any background again,
Mm-hmm.
if you have black folks who say, "Well, I'm just that's all there is to them," that's refused to look at, say it's no different. That digging in the heels, refusing, like you said, to open yourself up, learn more about it. What we would call a healthy person who
Mm-hmm.
does not have boundary issues
Right.
and is not afraid. There's a fear is a big part of that.
Yes.
Fear. What are you so
And where does
scared
fear
of?
come from, Dr. Angie? We talked about it before the top of the show. We talked about who is that person or who is that entity that
You remember the old Saturday Night Live? Dana Carey played the church
yeah, yeah,
lady.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Could
yeah,
it
yeah.
be
Could it be?
Satan
I believe
with the echo? Satan,
so.
Satan, Satan. Could it be? Could
Isn't
it
that
be?
special?
Yeah, right. Isn't that exactly, exactly? So, and in this day and age, some young people say it's your mind telling you whatever it is. If it's not healthy, it's not serving you. Because being jealous and envious and all that, it doesn't feel good to the person.
No,
That
not at
doesn't
all.
feel good. That
They're
doesn't feel good.
miserable. Hmm.
Not at all. So yeah, it's harmful all the way around. It takes away from if it takes away from one, it takes away from everyone.
Yeah.
And folks have tried, since the dawn of time, really, to make these kind of divisions, and ultimately we all come from the same African black lady in deep in the motherland. That
That's right.
she's the birth mother of us all. So
Mitochondrial Eve. Yes.
might hey, there that we carry, that we do carry. So yeah, gosh, I mean, we know about the algorithms, of course. You look at a few stories, you want to stay informed, that kind of thing, and then it floods you with all of that.
Mhm.
And like you said, we were talking, earlier. You look at your doggy videos. I look at my doggy and cat videos or whatever. Um, I make a conscious choice to stay informed. There's some things I definitely need to see for sure, but I don't
Mhm.
stay there.
Yeah.
And I make a conscious, and then there's so many times when you start to answer and it's like, you know there's some things I answered, and it's like, because there's so much, you can just like drive yourself crazy with that. And then sometimes it is important to like put that voice in there of
Mhm.
reason and give
Mhm.
you something to think about and some history for
Mhm.
sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, balance. I know a lot of people are very, very angry. Uh, and it's understandable. It's understandable when you just keep these lies are being told, and keep having things thrown at us and all the rest, and then people are feeling freer than ever to do it. um, I cannot prescribe, and anyone coming after me, but I encourage balancing that, not only with the fun and funny videos. By the way, have you met Maddie J?
I don't think I've met Maddie J.
I must send.
Yes, please
She
send
is
me her feed.
outrageous. She's a character. She is a character, that's the character she plays. Maddie J and her husband, her long suffering husband Herman. But comedy and stuff like that. Balance it not only with when you're on social, some videos and some fun stuff and
Mhm.
info,
Mhm.
but also balance it with, as we've talked about, um, uh, when we're loving seeing people of all different backgrounds, when we're seeing Filipino Americans talking to
Mhm.
Filipino folks about,
Mhm.
are you serious? This came straight from black. Hello, a lot
Right.
of white folk. When we talk about that, it's important to balance with some of that, I think, because it reminds us that it's not all the racists just
Mhm.
letting it fly.
Mhm.
I do enjoy. I don't look a lot of it, but I do enjoy. There's a couple of like YouTube channels. One in particular that was set up by a guy who had been deeply in MAGA. And so he has guests on who have left, MAGA, which for those
The
around the
young
world.
guy, the young guy,
Yeah,
I
he's
think
kind of youngish.
yes,
Yep,
I
yeah, there's
think
a
I've
couple of
seen
them
his
for sure.
videos. Yep.
Um, And I like to see he has guests of others who have left that cult.
Mhm. Mhm.
For those around the world who may not be sure, MAGA stands for Make America Great Again, and
Mhm.
it is the campaign slogan of the regime that is in the Oval Office here in America, in the
Mhm.
United States of America, and a
Mhm.
lot of people who are followers of him. People have said it's very cult like,
Yeah.
very much so.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things I think I don't think that they are important because we can, those algorithms keep sending the same kinds of videos as algorithms will do.
Mhm.
It can begin to feel that everybody's angry. Everyone is not angry. We're still seeing people run in and save people's lives that they didn't know, white and black. We're still seeing people, a longtime friends of ours, fellow violin diva in the violin divas group. Her husband, the black couple. It's got maybe 10 years now or so, several years ago. Um, he had a bone marrow. It was a bone marrow
Mhm.
issue, very very serious. And as we know, a lot of times getting a organ transplant for black people and black Americans can
Yeah.
be more difficult than white Americans. We're not on those lists like that, etc. He got a donor from a white man a young guy who was a perfect match
Wow.
and saved his life. And so they did like a 10-year anniversary, kind of, and he met his donor, and it was just wonderful. It was just a beautiful. And so both of them and their wives and their kids, they've got to know each other. So those are not, like, it's not like they just don't exist. They're just from another planet. I mean, those kinds of stories are happening all the time.
Yes, they are.
They're happening all the time. So it's important to balance those stories as well. It's heartening. It can be a relief. It can be something to celebrate and to help us realize that those who are, throwing the racial slurs and all that do not represent everyone.
Mhm.
And that helps to remind us that there is hope.
Absolutely.
There's always hope. There is always hope.
Absolutely.
Yes. And one other thing I'll also say it's important in terms of balancing with the victories, the
Mhm.
court victories, the things we don't hear as much about that the mainstream media is not necessarily reporting on,
Mhm.
that regular basis. But we've got some wonderful folks, who are reporting that stuff out, who are trusted, whose resources you can trust and stuff, on social media and other places as well. Where we are learning some of those victories. I'll say on Rachel Maddow's a great one on MSNBC.
Mhm.
She's
Mhm.
always like rattling off, how the citizens in different, city after city after city is
Mhm.
saying, no, you cannot bring that hatred here. No, you cannot house immigrants here. No, and pushback, and how it's working. It's
Yes.
working.
Yes.
The lawsuits that are being brought, where judges are upholding the right thing when it comes to some of these discrimination cases, etc. It's important to know that and see that, because it can't, so that it can feel like, are we just drowning in the evil? There's a lot of evil.
You say a
A
lot of
lot
it.
of evil, but there's also a lot of beauty. There's a
Mhm.
lot of beauty and a lot of people who are really trying to do something positive for each other, and across racial lines also.
Mhm. As I say to people, God still sits on the throne. Uh,
Yes, that's right.
I'm going to leave you with two scriptures because I think they're important. Matthew 6:33 says, "But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and
Yes,
all these things will be added to you." And I think people forget because we are constantly in a cycle where we're working, we're trying to make money, we're trying to go to school, we're trying to raise our kids, we're doing all these things, and we forget the source of all of our blessings,
that's right.
which, whether you want to call it God, the creator, the universe, whatever, it's all the same thing. It's God. And then Matthew 7:7. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you. I encourage everyone who is listening, if you don't have a diverse group of people around you, go seek them out. Be genuine, be open. Trust me, you will learn way more than you think. I have met all different types of people. I've met Middle Eastern people from all different areas and learned so much about the history of the Middle things that I didn't know because
Hmm.
I'm not Arabic. Didn't, it's not something that I had to know, but I was glad I was able to ask questions. And it has broadened my view. So when people say foolish things to me, I'm like, that's not true. Stop saying that. That's not true.
Excellent. So true. Um, what you're reading is from an ancient text, and like
Mhm.
Paul said, is just there's nothing new under the sun.
There isn't.
Humans still need love. We still need connection. There's still prejudice. There's still racist,
Mhm.
and we're still here.
That's right.
We're
That's
still
right.
here. Yes.
And that's a great way to end our show. Thank you, Dr. Angie, for being with us in this fascinating conversation. Before we get out of here, tell us how we can reach you and how we can follow you on social media.
Thank you so much, Kim. I can be reached and followed on social media on Facebook. It's the name on the screen here. So it's Angela Celeste May, Celeste. My middle name, last name is May, M-A-Y, like the month. Either Angela Celeste May or Dr. Angela Celeste May on Facebook. Um, Dr. Angela Celeste May on Facebook as well. That the one with the doctor is my music page on Facebook. You can follow me on Instagram. Um, and also on LinkedIn, and I have a YouTube channel as well. Um, with my sister and business partner in our company, A.M. May and Associates Incorporated, where we do counseling, consulting, and coaching, including creative coaching and doctoral. I do doctoral coaching. She does creative coaching.
Mhm.
Coaching. I also am a leadership coach as well, executive coach. So you can find us on Instagram and on Facebook at ammayassociates.com. I'm sorry, AMA Associates on both, and our website, which is ammassociates.com. If you are interested in booking me to perform, I'm a public speaker. I'm also a vocalist and performer and flutist, etc. You can email CELESTE, which is my middle name, and then MUS, which is short for music, and the number one at AOL.com. What else? I said LinkedIn already and YouTube. A couple of things. I forgot I had these cards. This is the cover of my book Freedom. What is
There
the
you
experience of living without negative self-imposed limitations? It's an excellent book. People have literally found it life-changing. Actually, very, very, very inspiring. Based on research that I did with real people from a broad range of backgrounds, broad range of ages, about how they went from being stuck in any aspect of their lives to feeling to a sense of freedom. And there are 7 principles that came out of that people have found very, very helpful. So you can find this book at Ex Libris. That's an X Libris. That's the publishing company. Also on Amazon and actually, if you just type in the title, it's all over the place. It's in a lot of places, barnesandnoble.com, and then other places around the world as well. And then I always talk about my albums. So I have my two albums. There they are. Bam. There they are. So this is the first one. This is No Limits. And the second one, which is Reintroducing the Lady. There you go. Both of those, well, let me see. The first one can be found on Reverb Nation. It's also streaming. Look for, again, my full name. And then the second album you can get on iTunes and Amazon as well, I do believe. So that's what we have at the moment. And I think that's it at the moment. I'm performing coming up in July,
Yes.
but it's a private gig that was booked for a private party. So wonderful.
Excellent. Excellent. You're always doing wonderful things, and we love it when you come visit us because we know we're going to have a great conversation. So thank you. Can't wait to
Thank
see
you.
you back in August because we're going to take a break in July. So thank
Yes.
you very
For
much.
both, that's both of the July is both of our birthdays. We are
Yes, it
Cancer
is.
babies. Yay.
Hey. So thank you, Dr. Angie. So we will see you soon. Hey guys, I am your host, Kimby Davis. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, LinkedIn, X, Twitter, Threads, Fanbase, Spill. There's a bunch of places. Just If you type in my name on an app, most likely you will find me. You can see more of this show at youtube.com/Kimberly Batchelor Davis. You can hear this show on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, and Wisdom. And you can learn more about me as an author at kimbdavis.com. Remember, you matter, your voice is important, and always be magnificent.